Well, today is September 7th, and I believe this is divine time. I don't know why, but when I woke up this morning, as soon as my feet hit the floor, the Lord said I needed to share some experiences that I've had in time past, and maybe it will help some who may be in the fundraising position right now. I'm not, but I know I need funds, but I'm not led to do a fundraiser. But listen to me, for those who are in position or preparing to do an event or preparing to raise some funds or, getting yourself prepared to get some people together to help you meet a certain cause. And so I want to give this two parts. I didn't even get my timer here, and I need to get it together because I don't want to go over a certain length of time here. And want to make sure that I, discuss the things that I need to discuss here. But I want to make sure that you do get a pen and pad while I'm getting my timer here so that you can be sure and take note of some of the things that I'm sharing here in regards to my past experiences and working with people and organizations and things like that and all types of community projects. And so I got my timer. Thought it was already set. It's not. Let's see here. Okay, but anyway, I'm trying to make this no more than 20 minutes, and then I'm going to come back with part two and share in this segment that I'm trying to cover. I'm going to be sharing some ways that you can start to assemble your team. That's number one. That was the hardest part for me to understand, that I had to get some committed, and that's the word that many people who think that they got people with them that are committed, and they're not, okay? So they need to have the heartbeat of the leader's vision. That's number one, okay? So we're going to talk about assembling the team, and then on part two, hopefully I can come back and talk about cultivating, the community interest. Because if you don't know how to cultivate the community interest based on what God has told you to do, then you're really just going to be just pulling yourself together with a bunch of things and people who really don't care. They want to come and just eat and gather. No, we're trying to make an impact. I love the word impact because it's the only way you're going to be able to get people to really see the heart, of the leader. So anyway, let's talk about the first thing we need to do first, and I always say pray, okay? Pray that God has really told you to do this, okay? Pray that God is leading you in a specific region or specific thing that he's calling you to do. I don't care if it's a fish fry or a garage sale. Make sure you know that region is what he's sending you to, because you're not only going to be planted in that region just to be able to do that fundraiser, you're going to be impacting lives in that region because of who you are and the call on your life, okay? So assembling your team, you're going to be prayerful first, you're going to be fasting, and then as you got the vision down, you know this is what God wants you to do. Now, number two, you're going to take that time of fasting and prayer after you get your list of who that team is going to be. And remember, that team is not just going to be people that are volunteers and all that. That team has to be those people who are part of your board, especially if you're a nonprofit. They have to be a part of your board, your chairperson, your executive director, which is yourself or whoever you appoint as director of. Maybe you got an executive director of that particular event. But that nonprofit, usually director, is the one that's overseeing or has the vision. So you want to look at your director of the actual event that you have appointed, whoever that director of development is going to be for the event. The board of directors are very important, that they're all involved. You might want to create an advisory board. That's always good, because I always have that to try to get the pros and cons, because just like, sometimes we have a vision, we just so arrow-headed, we just straight, shooting toward the target. But sometimes God will use people who will rub you wrong or make you think that they're not on board with you when they're really trying to show you something. So don't ever think that if you got someone that you feel like God has appointed you to be a part of the team, and then now you don't want to hear what they have to say, they can't be just a yes, sir, yes, ma'am type of person. They got to be there to sharpen you, to open your eyes, to see some things that you might not be able to see. And so you need to listen. I'm not saying do everything that they say because they give you something different. You stay what God told you to do, but if they're trying to show you another way or something that could be more wiser to do, take it to the altar. That's the only thing you need to do. Listen, write it down, and take it to the altar and ask Daddy about it, because he will definitely show you. And so that advisory board is very important, okay? And then, of course, you want to get a volunteer committee together. Now, we're going to be talking about that in just a little bit about building the team part, about some things you need to consider. But that volunteer committee is very important. And so there's different segments of that I want you to realize that you need to consider when you're going through a team as far as getting these people together to, get ready to commit to the effort. It's very, very hard when you're trying to get to raise money, because people just, they get slowful sometimes because they're really not connected in the realm of an understanding what you're doing, or they don't trust you with the money that you may even raise. And so I think it's very important that before you appoint anyone in any major position, and really you should already be done had a list, not a list, and your board of directors should know what their positions are, who they are, what does it mean to be a part of a board. Many people that are part of boards today, they don't even know who they are, why they're even there. So I think you need to make sure that your board understands their position. Give them their descriptions. I don't want to say that loud enough. Give the board of directors their descriptions. If you need an example of that, please contact me and I can give you one. But you need to make sure you do that, and make sure that every person, the chairperson, even your volunteers, even when I had volunteers at major events, I had volunteer committees, descriptions, what they were responsible for, timelines, and the whole nine, because I don't want to have an event that you don't know what you're doing and why. It's very important that they're very connected to the cause. And so this segment here that I'm talking about, assembling your team, is very important for you to go back and rewind what I'm saying to you. I don't care what it is involved. I don't care if it's just a fish fry. You know, what the cook responsibility is going to be. You know, how many they're going to fry and how many you're going to sell. We got two. I don't want to preach. I guess this is such a passion for me, and I guess Daddy wanted me to say this today. And I'm like, God, okay, but you know I'll obey anything you tell me to do, Daddy. And so I got up and I'm like, oh, man, let me find some notes here from my old stuff that I used to show people. You know, it's very important that we obey God. I believe I'm more like, I guess, a horizontal apostle. Well, I'm always trying to equip and get people ready and open their eyes about things. So I'm trying to broad, very, very marketplace, and trying to equip you in some areas. But those volunteer committees, that honorary chair, who, if you're going to have one, who's overseeing the whole thing, you need to make sure that you have the descriptions of who they are and why you appoint them to do that thing. I know it seems like a lot of unnecessary work, but I'm telling you, when people see that you have order, I don't want to preach, but when they see you have order, when they see that you have a thing that they can see that is very outlined. I never forget when I had my first benefactors, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. When I had my first benefactors meeting, they all had a package. They all had an outline, of trying to describe everything I could of why you were there, why I chose you, And when I had this, I had it in a very nice place. I had it in a very place where people could be very, very pleased that it wasn't somewhere just in a little corner. It was at a nice hotel. They had food, and we had a discussion, and they all had an opportunity to talk. I don't want to go through that right now, but I want to stay right here. You've got to make sure that you build this, and I believe I love Walt Disney, his thought, which is so true. I guess this is why I do what I do. I love his comment. He says that of all the things I've done, the most vital is coordinating the talents of those who work for him, to the point to reach that goal, and that is what I believe my goal is as an apostle, one that who raises up, who mobilizes people in their ministry. Being 65 this month, I have come to really understand that this is what I'm to do. I'm to take from where I have been anointed and done that. Now my goal is to make sure that I deliver that to those before I leave here. And so you make sure that you take notes what I'm telling you. Now, number one, you want to make sure that your honorary committee understand how they're going to extend what you need as far as resources concerned, okay? They're the ones going to pull everybody together to get these resources together, get people to understand, and recognize what your true event is. They're going to help you understand, where are you as far as getting the people who are going to underwrite your mission or your goal or your fundraiser. So that's number two. You want to look for your underwriting committee to be there. It's very important that you have an underwriting committee, because this particular committee can get a hold of all different people and different organizations and companies in your region and all companies. We got all companies in every neighborhood almost. Looking at all these types of people who can help you in regards to getting what you need, and that amount of money and that goal needs to be very, very strategic before you start trying to secure an underwriter. You cannot secure an underwriter. You don't even know how much you need, and they don't even know what the cause is. It's very important that cause be down. Now, we're going to talk about that when I talk about cultivating the community interest. And so very important. So then next, your committee is going to be your invitation committee. Now, your invitation committee, that person is the one who's going to work closely with the chairperson to get together how the invitation is going to look, how the flyer going to look, all those things. I can't go into a whole lot because I'm trying to make sure I get this on YouTube, and the network that I use don't take a lot of minutes. So we'll come back over this later. If you got questions, be sure to email them to me. But what that person does, they help schedule, they help create the invitations and the seating and the catalogs and, any special cards or things that you're going to be sending out to get the people ready. They make sure that it reflects quality and all of that. They make sure that everybody that's involved or everybody that's on your list that you want to invite, especially those that are politicians, those people that are TV personalities, and even people that are alumni from your high school that may be personalities today as public figures. You want to make sure that these are some very nice invitations and all of that. Then decoration committee, very important. As I give it out one, number three, the decoration committee. You've got to make sure that decoration committee is really, really prepared to do what you need to do based on your vision, that they're not trying to just throw something together. It has to be nice. And you make sure that those people who you are doing business with are those people who are going to be part of, your funding, and that they are funding you. You want to make sure that you highlight some things in the event about them. Maybe you ought to dedicate a table with decorations about them, or what they do. Just put a name on a table that these people are part of that, or that they have supported your effort. And then, of course, the reservation committee, you want to make sure Number 4, the reservation committee, that the reservations are there, the chairs, the listed attendees, all of that kind of stuff is in position. That person makes sure that placements are there, any names, any particular words that need to be there, even in the place where they're going to be seated. That might be a special seat that you may have for, say, for instance, if you have Kroger's there, and if people have Kroger's name on it. You just need to make sure that you have your reservation committee to understand how you're going to make sure you motivate your people that's given to you. And then the entertainment committee, Lord have mercy, that's one of the ones that I'm always concerned about, because a lot of times people have people that are doing entertainment that don't even need to be a part of the event type that you're doing. Even if you're having an outside event or evangelical event, make sure that that entertainment or that thing that's drawing people to be very festive and to draw them in to be celebratory, to celebrate, that is something that's connected to what you are doing, okay? And that they're not out there doing a whole bunch of worldly stuff, especially if you are a faith-based organization or business. And if you're not, so be it. Do whatever you want to do. But these things are going to apply to nonprofits. They're going to apply to people who are running businesses or corporations or whatever. I believe that these same nuggets that I'm giving you can help. Of course, the food and beverage committee, I think that's number 5. Then you already know what that means. Get somebody who's going to follow the correct order. That's something that's going to be blanket that just about anybody can eat. Don't be trying to get all these things that some people can't eat shrimp. Be very, very careful about what you're doing. You choose the menu, but make sure you have it where multiple different types of things that people can eat. Fruit is always a good thing because some people are fasting when they attend events. I know I fast a lot when I attend events because I want to be able to see in the spirit. So I don't eat a lot of food. So I look for the fruit. Okay, so make sure that we get fruit and stuff like that. Now, the next thing is number 6 is the commemorative program committee. Now, that's the one that's going to be doing your your souvenir booklet. That is a lot of work, and so unless you're going to sell those either before the event to do it as a fundraiser or have those available just for the main key contributors, that's another thing. But I always make sure that you announce everybody that gave in that commemorative booklet, because if you don't, then they won't want to give again, all right? And then the publicity. Okay, here's a biggie. Now, the publicity one, my time look like, oh, God, we got 1 minute. Now, the publicity committee is very important. Oh, it's 7 minutes. I can't tell. Anyway, the publicity committee, this is the one that makes sure that everything about the chair, the founder, that director that's got the vision, all this stuff is going to be released, okay? But when you're releasing this information, this publicity is very important to know that you can't just go and just start trying to make a flyer without the who, what, when, where, and why. You got to make sure that that person who is actually making that flyer or setting up the information about who's going to do what and when and all that has to be in that publicity announcement. Now, later I'm going to come back and talk a little bit about some of the things that you need to make sure that you do when we're talking about cultivating the community, to participate in what you're doing. But one of the things that I found that happens when people are trying to get their word out about the who, what, when, why, and all that is that because many of the time the people do not take time to look at their local partnerships. They don't look at the people in the grocery stores and all these people in the laundry where they spend their money every week. And I talked about this a while back. I made a list of everywhere I spent my money, from grocery stores to cleaners, dentist offices, everywhere. And I wasn't playing. I made sure that I personally did that request, because I figure if you know that you done pulled my tooth and I've been over here patronizing you, I'm coming back like the dentist that just pulled my tooth. I'm going back to ask him, because I looked on the wall, I saw how he support all these different organizations and stuff. Oh, yeah, well, I see you. I'm going to put you down on my list. You support different organizations, and I'll be seeing about you supporting me, because he knows that I'm out doing this kind of work. So you need to make sure that people know what you are doing so they can get on board. But back to this part in regards to getting the team together in regards to publicity. The first thing, the reason why you can't get the people to, regardless of whatever kind of event you're doing, to stay on target, to get them prepared to understand, is because, first of all, you need to make sure your planning is right. You need to get those things down that you expect from each person with timelines. And the first thing you need to do to consider that is you need to set up the committee communication timelines. I hope you're writing this stuff down. Your committee communication timeline. That means create a timeline, okay? Make sure that all the volunteers got their timelines. Make sure that everybody know their responsibilities. Make sure that everybody understand when you're meeting. And that's the second thing you want to communicate is your scheduled meeting times, to look over and go over everything and look at any potential problems that you run into, or people don't like they're meeting their goal. If you're saying everybody got to raise $50, well, where are you at by Monday? I need to know how much you got. I'm just giving an example. You need to have a timeline. I never in my life see people give people tickets. I want to preach. You give them tickets and you tell them to sell these tickets and they need gas. They're going to spend it on their gas and say, I'll pay you that. And then when it's time to turn in their money, they saying, girl, I had a hard time selling them. But actually they sold them, but they used the money. I don't want to preach. And so I know I'm helping somebody. You got to have a timeline. That means if they're not going to sell the tickets by the time they need to turn the tickets in and the money, or the money and the tickets. It's just that's just the way it is. I don't want to preach. Anyway, let me slow it down. And so you got to make sure that you have timelines on everything, especially when you got a deadline, to get something in to the people where you're going to, having all these different people do things, photographers and tables and foods. And, you got to have these timelines for everything. And so if the people that's on your team don't want to adhere to the timeline, you can't give them 2 and 3 and 4 chances, especially if they're in strategic positions. You're going to have to remove them and put somebody else, get somebody else. I know I'm talking to somebody. And so you need to build a team spirit. to make sure that everybody is in the same mindset, the same goal mindset. They're looking at the big picture of what God has called you to do, and they are on board, and they have prayed with you. They have fasted with you, and you can't hope that they fasted. You got to know that they fasted, and I believe there should be a time to discuss any type of problems during fasting. If they're going through a struggle with fasting, if they're dealing with medication or feeling sick and trying to fast, we need to be real because the devil knows that there's an acorn in the midst, and he's going to use them. So we need to be very, very careful about people that we choose even in our board. We got to be very strategic to look at these types of people who are working alongside of you, especially when you're trying to raise funds for your ministry, especially when God gave you a vision to make sure that you take that zero budget and raise it up to get what you need to something. If you can't get it to something, that must be an acorn or somebody that's lazy and lax and slack, and slow and disloyal in the group. And so establish a chain of command. That's number 3, okay? You want to establish a chain of command. So in order to do that, you got to have somebody that's in charge that you have appointed. You're going to need at least 2 of them, because one may get sick and one can't keep up, or anything can happen. So you want 2 chains of command. One is the assistant of the commander, and the other one is the commander, and one is the assistant of the commander. And so that means they're checking, they're looking at all the contacts, they're seeing what every part of the group is doing. They're checking timelines. They're checking, and they're behind you. They're part of your arm. They're seeing what you may forget. They're watching, okay? This is not the director. This is the chain of command. The one that's the administrator is making sure everything is flowing, okay? You call them in the name you want to call them. But this person is making sure no matter what obstacle is in the way, they're going to come against it. They're going to pray. They're going to ask God to show them if there's an acorn in the midst. They're going to pray. They're going to be the one that's going to be there to make sure that hell is back and heaven is opening, right? And so you want to stay in touch. Now, this is the thing. Stay in touch and communicate. You got to stay in touch. You got to be prepared. You got to make and remind them of what your goal is. Keep repeating that whenever God gave you the actual particular word or scripture or some type of motto about what you're doing. You want to make sure that they know what that is. You want to make sure they know and that they're following their purpose. They're following the leader. They're overlooking and seeing about who the honoree is going to be or what the event speakers are going to do, the what, when, where, how, that kind of thing. Even with the tickets. You got to make sure that you're staying in touch and that every contact person that needs to be contacted in regards to giving some type of funding, they need to be contacted. Okay? Okay, there's the time. Let me go to part 2. Lord have mercy. Okay. So y'all got that down. We're going to talk about the next part of this is making the planning and, looking at, before the event even get here, you got to make sure you recognize your groups. You want to make sure that they have a voice. And making sure that they saying what they really mean if they don't feel like it's a good position for them to be in. And before I go into cultivating the community interest, just remember, why would you have someone to be a greeter and they got a bad attitude? They don't even smile. Let me get off here. You need to make sure you have someone who's got a heart for your vision and that they fit what you're putting them in. I don't even care if they're frying some fish or if they over there making a tablecloth and laying it on the table or putting items down. They got to want to do this. They got to have a knack, as the old folks say. They got to have a heartbeat to want to do that. That's why I don't put nobody in nothing. When I start seeing that I might have missed God to put them in something, I hurry up and tell them, "Now I need you to come over here and help me write something or whatever." No, you're not gonna be in that position no more. Now, where I know where people are gonna be looking at you because that first impression is very important. Let me get out here. Going to the next thing, cultivating community interest.